Welcome to Reunite with Self podcast. I'm your host, Rukan. Here, we will be discovering and unraveling what is truly holding you back. We will put the puzzle together and give you clarity on how and what you can do to create massive shift in your life so you start creating the life you always envisioned for yourself. There is no more waiting. Whether it is liberating from dysfunctional family patterns or parenting tools and tips that actually make the difference, we will be diving into the truth and core of things that are simple and which yet no one talks about. I will be sharing with you all the things that would have changed my life massively if I heard any one of these episodes. A new world is awakening, and true bliss, harmony, and peace is possible on this earth. And my mission is to bring you closer to that, one step at a time. In this safe space, I will hold your hand and give you courage and certainty that you can shift anything and everything in your life. It is time we break the pattern. Whether you want to be the parent you never had or make a shift in your life so you don't play small any longer, you will find the support and guidance in this space. My intention is for you to find answers within yourself while you listen to this podcast, so you feel the bliss of reuniting with your true essence, with self, with so much love and compassion and courage. From my heart to yours, let's keep it rockin'. My gorgeous listener, thank you for being here. I am so excited and honored to be doing this episode today. Today's topic is something that I am still going through. I am still learning, and most probably I will continue learning throughout my life. But I was really excited to do this episode on the cost in your business if you had narcissism in family. It's very, very costly in your business life, in your work life, in your career, whatever it may be, if you had especially hidden narcissism in family. And in all transparency, I have been through an experience recently, and it took me a long time to realize. So this is still very recent, but as I was venting to one of my friends a couple of days ago, earlier this week, I was really frustrated. So the emotions were, I was so frustrated, so angry with the person, with the situation. And as I was venting, I'm going to tell you the story, but as I was venting, I realized that, wow, like I should know this stuff. With no judgment to myself, I realized that, in all areas of our lives, we are affected, immensely influenced if we have narcissism in family, and especially if we're not aware of it. So I woke up to so much truth in the last 2 years, and I have completely changed my life, but I'm still learning, and I'm so passionate about sharing what took me so long to realize, and it just gives me more power, more passion to share with you, because I don't want this to take so long. It should not take so long for us to realize if something is off, if something is not working, if the balance is not right, if there is something off about the situation. I should be able to read the red flags in my nervous system. I should know in my body that something is not right here. Usually what happens is if you had narcissistic behavior in family, it doesn't need to be necessarily narcissistic personality disorder, by the way. I always talk about this throughout the whole podcast, so you can listen to different episodes. Just be open to the fact that there might be narcissism in your family if you're drawn to this, or there might be narcissistic tendencies in people, in your friends' family or whatever. I'm sure you know someone who has a narcissistic tendency for sure if you live on this earth plane. But I'm so passionate about this. I am so passionate because these should be so clear. So we should be very, stuff should be so clear for us that we move forward with, making decisions, making changes, making shifts, or even like making the decision on something, especially about other people. It costs you so much, so much in your work life in general if you had narcissistic tendency in family, and especially if it was hidden, so it was more unseen, so it was even more influential and all of that stuff, because you were exposed to it for a longer time, you enabled it, you accommodated it, you found excuses for it for a longer time, so the influence was higher because you were exposed to it. So all of that stuff. And I talk all about this in this podcast, but I'm going to talk to you about only one cost in your business if you had narcissism in your family. And when I mean when I say narcissism, I always talk about narcissistic tendencies, behaviors in any area of your life. It doesn't have to be like this very extreme polarity of narcissistic disorder. It doesn't have to be for it to have extreme influence on your life. Like, it has crazy amount of influence in your life if it is hidden. And I talk about this in all the other episodes. I guess I'm not going to go into it much today, but I'm going to talk about what it does in your life, in your workspace. So today's topic is, you might have your own business. You might think about, you might want to have your business one day. So you might be in the position of hiring people or having like contracts with people, working with people, having them work for you in any shape or form. And this is so crucial because you're picking up the people in your life in this. And I had a very challenging experience recently. After many, 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 many months, I came to realize that I have invested so much of my time and money on the wrong person, completely wrong. And in that marketplace, I didn't have, if you ask me, like, if you looked for someone else much longer, would you be able to find? My answer would be most probably no. Like, there were not many options in that workspace, in that market, for me to find maybe someone else to do that work, what I wanted. But the problem, but that would be a clear fact, and so I would go for another solution, which I did now, but it took me so many months. And it's not just like, when you hire someone or when you contract someone for your business, it's not that like you spend your time on training them, on like whatever the information you have to give, if you have to train them, if you have to share what your mission is or whatever. So that time is wasted. So that time plus the business wastes a lot of time. I think who said it, I don't remember, but the most costly mistake for your business is hiring the wrong people. And oh my goodness, you are so susceptible to this if you had narcissism in your family, because you have very low understanding of what's right, what's wrong. I don't mean to use right and wrong in like I'm sure you understand what I mean, like what's good in your body, like what's okay and what's not okay, about your boundaries, about the balance in the give and take. Like, is this going where I want it to go? Do you see progress, and understandable progress, not like impatient or anything, but just the effort you put in and the thing you see back, right? What is the pattern here? What is happening? what is happening in the first week, the second week, the first month, 3 months later, 5 months later, like what's happening? What is the pattern? What is the problem? How am I feeling when I go into this meeting? How am I feeling when I give this chore to this person, this task, and do they deliver? How do they deliver? How much time it takes? How much work it takes from your side? So not only I wasted so much of my own precious time from my own life, I wasted time from that business. I wasted time from my other businesses because I took time away. I have a limited time of resource, like my resource of time is limited, and I take from that where I could give that to my other businesses, and I give it to that, and it's gone to waste. This is really frustrating. Not that I went through it. I'm fine with it now, like mostly fine with it. That's why I'm sharing it. I am very frustrated and very angry that we are not taught. Teaching someone mentally is not so valuable for me, but like this is not ingrained in our nervous system if we don't have a healthy attachment style in our families. Like if we had narcissistic abuse, extreme, very hidden, you don't know when something is right and wrong. You don't know when the balance is right. You don't know if what you're giving, you're going to get back. You don't know what a balanced, healthy relationship is, period. Any kind of relationship. And work relationship, whatever tendencies you have in the narcissistic relationship, if you are very used to finding excuses for them, being enabling in the name of being patient and understanding, and it's total BS. Like being patient with someone is something completely different. You feel good in your body when you're feeling patient. Like you know that it's worth something. It's not like you put a seed in the earth and then you expect a tree to bloom or whatever. It's how much work and nurturance and whatever it takes to build something and grow something with someone. But I was so, in one moment, I realized as I was venting to my friend, I realized that I should know this. Like I should know in my body, no, this is not the right one. So it doesn't even, it doesn't just affect your friendships, your romantic life, I always said work life, but I had major breakthroughs about how it influences your business. Like the fact that I was playing so small, hiding my whole life, wanting something so bad, but was so scared of it. I mean, it was like I had so many breakthroughs, but I wasn't aware that I would be susceptible to not seeing when I hire someone, and I had this experience in the past. But I did not know that. I wasn't aware. And it took so much, it had to be such a big challenge for me that I had to understand and realize, wow, this is so major. I have to do an episode on this. Because if you had any narcissistic abuse, tendencies, behavior from any parents, and in your family relationships, or other relatives, whatever, siblings, you are so susceptible to not understand if something is right and wrong. And the only way, and I'm going to give you a solution too, we have the solution here. The only way that that someone is right for you to work with, to hire, and even to be employed by, if you're choosing a job and you're going to be employed by someone, either it's the business owner himself or whoever you're going to work with, your manager, whatever. There is a way. And as I was looking to hire someone, I had a couple of this experience. And universe protected me, and there was always a barrier. It didn't happen somehow. Either I said no or they said no, and universe protected me, and I could only see this afterwards. But with this experience, I did not see it. And I don't think it was the fact that I didn't want to see it, but I believe it's because I don't know in my nervous system well enough. Now I think I know better for sure. I know better for sure. I can't say I know like the whole thing, but in my work life, if I'm hiring someone, so I have my own business, but if I don't have my own business, if I was hired by someone, like I now know better how it feels in my body when something is right. And I don't mean to say that you're not going to have any problems. Like having a business is all about solving problems. Like all day, every day, I'm for it. I don't care. Bring it on. Like I'm going to solve the problem, or I'll be like willing to look at it and lean in. And that does not make me feel frustrated like when I am not abused, I don't want to say, but it was so clear that it wasn't working. It was so clear. Like now I see it was so clear. And maybe I didn't want to see because I really wanted it to work because I care so much about my work and about this business. And it was so new for me, like all of the stuff. And I know that like there was a reason behind it and all the things. Like there are so many other details to it. I am grateful for the experience, mostly because it had to hurt so much and it had to cost me so much, because I would pour that time into anything else. That business itself, me actually applying like what I was telling this person to do, if I did it myself, like you can tell from that too. If you are hiring someone and if it takes same amount of energy for you to do it yourself, then like 100% it's a no. But I was like, let me get back to the point. The point is I was so frustrated, like as I was talking to my friend and what I was going through because of the consequence of this, like what I was going through as a consequence of this. And the amount of like the workload and my time and all of the stuff, like the pain afterwards was immense, and I'm still working through it. And it's fine. I'll get through it. It just gives me more strength, and I know better now. But the most important thing that as I was venting to her, and then I realized, and then like my friend gave me great advice afterwards, but afterwards I realized, like as I was venting, I realized I have to know this in my nervous system. Like, why are we not shown this? Like, not taught? Because if someone is abusing you in a narcissistic way and they're telling you, you should watch out for this boundary, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just words. Who the fuck cares? Like, I'm sorry, but it's what you experience in your nervous system, what you're exposed to, what the people around you make you feel is what counts, because that's what you know. Like, you do what you know. And what you're familiar with is something that you will enable, you will accommodate. In the name of being patient, you will enable it. And how long is it going to take? Yeah, it took so much shorter time than what I would go through before. Like, I didn't push it more. Yes, this was so much faster, but where I'm at in my life, I don't want to say I have no patience for it, but there is like no need. Like, let's just go. So, yeah, I'm grateful to the person, everything, like, but this was such an eye-opener, so that I wanted to do this episode, because I want to share with you. It's when you are working with someone, hired by them, working with them, hiring them, whatever, you just feel it in your body. If you leave that meeting frustrated, if you're going to that meeting feeling frustrated, like, oh, they're not going to understand, like they're not going to know like how much work this is going to take. They're not going to do it right. They're not going to really like follow through the way it requires, the way I tell them. You just feel it. That frustration is always there after you see them, before you see them. And you might give them tasks, and then, a week later, you just feel it in your body. It's just like, it's so clear in the work. You see it in the physical world in 3D, like what they do, what they don't do. You see it, like it's just crystal clear. But the biggest tool that you can use is your body. It's always your body. Your body tells you. And this is not the same if you're working with the right people, like, right people. And in that moment, doesn't mean that they're like the right one, like ever. Just in that moment, you're doing it with the right people and you're having challenges in business as one would. And it's not that frustrating. Like this is completely different because you're working towards something when you are with the right people, when you have the right team around you. You feel it, like the problem in the business or the challenges or whatever, or the workload, or I was so frustrated. And I was telling my friend, like, this is not, like, I'm so overwhelmed. I was just feeling super overwhelmed as a consequence of whatever happened and the workload I had afterwards. But it was like, I know this is not about how much I'm working. Like, I love working. And it's not about the labor I'm putting into something. But it's just the fact that I did not see from day one that we were not moving one step at a time. That there was like, because when that person goes, you start from scratch again, from zero, ground zero almost. And the more nurturance and labor you put into something, the effort, the energy, the intention you put into something, the more it hurts, and the longer it takes, the more it hurts. And the sooner you get out of it, the healthier you are, the sooner you figure this out and you're certain and you're clear and you're like, no, this is not healthy. And I'm talking about something like, if I would compare my life to before, this is such a short time in my life. Like, I knew better, but now it's different, because having the expectation from someone, and that's why you put in so much effort and nurturance and labor into the work. You wouldn't do it if it's not the right person, even if you have to, let's say, contract them or hire them or have them in your team in some way. That would still be different. So this brings me to the final piece of this episode is, if you had any narcissistic tendencies, behavior in your family, it's truly very costly for your whole life if you don't make a huge shift, change, make a decision, see it truly for what it is with clarity. Then your life changes. Then you're not bound to it. But it requires deep work. And it requires a lot of connection with your nervous system and your body, like awareness of how am I feeling around this person. And because I was going to hire someone else and for this position, and universe saved me. And when you propose someone something and then you're waiting for the reply, and it can be anything in life, and then they say no, and then you feel relief. Like, I was like, and it happened twice. And the other person, it was not that they didn't have like a good energy. They're an excellent person, but it just like, I know that it wasn't the right fit for that thing. It was like both times it was a relief after they said no. And I said yes. And I gave a proposal, and I was waiting for the response, and they come back with, and it's something that I really, really, really need. And when they come back with a no, I felt relief. And I was like, oh my God, God loves me, universe protects me. I knew this, like I had zero, like no negative emotion, no challenging emotion about it. But what I want to say is, if you had any narcissistic tendencies in your family, one of the big costs in your business is that you don't have to necessarily, you might hang on to people in your business, in your work, that are not the right fit. And you might, the longer you stay in it, the bigger the cost is. The longer you stay, the bigger the cost. And it's like layers of costs. It's money, huge. Time, huge. Emotional distress, whatever. That emotional pain, it's huge. And so, so what I would suggest and what I learned is that following that emotion in the body is very, very important. Instead of like just the mental stuff, to put it someplace, if it's right, wrong, what should I do? Should I give up, stop, hire someone, fire that person, whatever? Because then you start getting into fear, or you might get overwhelmed with like how much you got to do to make that change, because sometimes making that change feels like it requires more effort, but actually you feel relieved when they're gone. You just feel relieved. But you're left with like other challenges. So the shorter it is, the smaller the challenge, of course. But what we have to do, if you are a highly sensitive, compassionate, open-hearted, empathic person, which I do this podcast for, if you had any narcissistic behavior in your family, we have to follow our body, our nervous system. What is it telling me? Like, how am I feeling around this person? How do I feel when I'm about to see them? How do I feel after I have a meeting with them? How do I just feel in my body? How do I feel when I think about what they gotta do? How do I feel? Do I feel safe? Or do I feel this resistance that it's not gonna work? Like they're not gonna understand. They're not gonna follow through like I ask. I will need to repeat again. Like, this is a fucking no. This is a fucking no. It's not acceptable. And and it's frustrating on on many levels. So I did this podcast to remind you, if you feel uncomfortable around anyone, if it feels yucky and they might be the best expert in that area, or the one that has the best experience, or the professional, or whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can do things with people from scratch because they have that energy and that willingness and that openness, and that, they're willing to put in that labor and that nurturance and love and everything to the work. But if you feel any kind of resistance, it's telling you something. Do not ignore it. If you ignore it one day, look at it the next day with full honesty and just follow your body. When they say if you're on a date, just like feel into your body, like how do you feel around this person? What kind of a person are you around this person? It's the same thing in work, I believe. You have to feel into your body. Because if you love work, if you have business, I'm sure you love something about this business, or everything about the business, or you have a mission and you want to do this. So the problems never make you feel that way. It's a very different thing when you have challenges in work. But if you feel this resistance with people, and
And if things are not moving, but the challenge might be something else, by the way. That was just like my challenge in this story, but it can be like very different things. But if you feel this resistance, please follow that. Please look at it. Please don't ignore. Please don't say like, oh, it's going to change, because that's the exact thing that you do in narcissistic abuse. You always think they're going to change, but you don't say it like that in your brain. You just have that, hope for that potentiality, but it might play out a little differently in different areas. In like work life, it might play out a little differently for it to stay hidden. That's the only way it works. So our shadows bring out something for us to see and deal with it differently this time. So yeah, I really wanted to share this with you. May we all learn in our families what's right and what's wrong, what's okay and what's not okay, what's the good balance, how does it feel when give and take is balanced. I don't want to say equal, because one might give more in one instance, but then the other might give more in another instance. So there is a balance. When it's balanced, it's safe. But it's really deep. It's not a mental safety, or it's not about you trusting that person. This is not about that. This is not about you trusting the person or not. This is not about them being a good person, them really having like respect for you or love for you or whatever for you. This is not about that. This is about what's happening in this situation. Is it balanced, give and take? Am I seeing progress? What's happening? Let's just be more conscious about it and trust our bodies more. I love you so much. You can always DM me on my Instagram, Kevela. It's in the show notes. You can always DM me if you have a specific question about anything about what we talk about in this podcast. I love you so much. I'll see you on the next one. My gorgeous listener, if you had any takeaways from this episode or from this podcast in general, I would love to know. Please share this episode with a few loved ones right now. You never know how they can benefit from something so small. And please take a screenshot of this episode and share on IG, tagging me at Kevela. That is Khewella, Kevela. That is my goddess wear brand, my Instagram page. I would love to know what your takeaway was, or something you found inspirational, or a confirmation you believe in as well. That would make my day. And you can always DM me if you have a topic or a certain question in mind that you want me to talk about. And give me a 5-star rating if you feel like it. That would help this podcast immensely to get the word out. I love you. See you on the next one. I want to see you shine your brightest.